Coach Jim Fassel with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. And Coach, the Philadelphia Eagles and Chip Kelly. It's funny. One day he's an idiot when he trades out two pieces of his team. And then the next day he's a genius when he brings in DeMarco Murray. What is Chip Kelly doing in Philadelphia?
Well, I don't know. I mean, by getting exchanging those guys, picking up Murray, I mean, that's a heck of a pickup. You know, he was the best running back in the league last year. What happens is that, there's so many things go behind who you're going to sign, who you're going to let go. Bill Walsh made a comment years ago. He said, I'd rather cut a guy or trade him a year in advance of his retirement than I would have him one over year where he should have probably played that year.
Yeah, I mean, the way I'm looking at it now is basically Chip Kelly traded LaShawn McCoy for Kiko Alonso and DeMarco Murray. I mean, I guess if I look at it that way, it makes a little more sense to me than just, hey, let's get rid of this Pro Bowl running back and bring in this Pro Bowl running back.
Yeah, sometimes it just falls in your lap. I mean, it sounds like Murray called the Philadelphia Eagles. And,
right.
When you lose a guy like that, I mean, it hurts. But when he goes into the division you're in, that doubles the hurt. But, the thing is, when you're talking about Chip Kelly and that, if I own that team, I'm saying, good, I like the moves, but you know what? They're not going to win until they change some stuff. And, they led the league in turnovers. They gave the most turnovers of any team in the league. Right there, you're not going to get in the playoffs. And then when your defense plays the most plays of any team in the league, those two categories are going to eliminate you.
Jim Fassel with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. Coach, former coach of the New York Giants, kind enough to spend time with us every now and then. Good to have him today. And, Coach, in regards to the Eagles needing to fix some things, Herm Edwards was on our morning show this morning with Mike and Mike and said, look, if Chip Kelly feels like Marcus Mariota is the guy for his system, he needs to go get him because either way, if he goes and gets him and it doesn't work, then he's on his butt. But Herm Edwards made the reference. He said, I drafted for the future, and now I'm doing this job. If I would have drafted for now, maybe my future would have been different. Do you agree with that? That if Chip Kelly feels like Marcus Mariota is the guy, would Marcus Mariota fix these problems you just spoke of?
Well, I think it could be an advantage if they could get him. And sounds like there's some teams that are willing to trade back and get you in a position where you could pick him. And I like the guy as a quarterback. When I've watched him throw, his mechanics are good. He's a good athlete. But more importantly, I've never met him, but above the shoulders, he's a smart guy and a leader type guy. He's got all of the other characteristics that make some quarterbacks fail, even if they have great athleticism and ability to play the game. And the other thing is, what an advantage it would be to have a rookie quarterback come in and know your system. I mean, he could coach it, assuming that he's left everything in place, which I think he has. I mean, that's huge.
Coach, he would have to give up a lot. The Eagles would have to mortgage the future, so to speak. How do you know as a head coach, okay, I'll give up this much, but not this much? How do you make that decision? You just go with your gut? I mean, that's to me, is the most difficult part of the evaluation process of a head coach.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to, am I willing to give up this much for him? And in a quarterback, everybody reaches. No question, everybody reaches. But again, what I said was, I'm all in favor for him reaching for him and have to give up some draft picks or whatever he's got to give up to move up to get him. But for a quarterback who has his skill and his up above in his head, that's what costs them all. The guys that don't work out as quarterback is almost 100%. It's just because of the way they handle themselves with the team. He knows this guy better than anything, and all the reports I've read, he's that type of guy.
Coach, up here, the Jets, Todd Bowles and Mike McCagnon making some bold moves. 3 cornerbacks, $127 million in 3 days. What do you think of the secondary in New York now?
Well, he's really improved it. And, I'm going to tie this in. I'll get back to it. The running backs' money went up because people are realizing it's a passing league, but if all you can do is pass, and that's the only thing you can do, and people are trying to do it, okay, then you've got to get corners to cover them. You got to get corners to cover them, and that's where every 2 or 3 years you see a shift and who gets paid higher and who the hot properties are. But you know, they're loaded to stop the pass with those guys. I mean, that'd be a difficult choice on who you're going to throw the ball against there.
Well, and Coach, your concept of Todd Bowles as defensive guy, he's obviously defensive coordinator in Arizona, and we looked at it as he was successful in Arizona because he had one of the best secondaries in the NFL. He goes to the Jets, and he creates one of the best secondaries. This is a coach that's improving his strength, right?
That's exactly right. And you got to make a decision when you first go in. It's a lot like when I went to the Giants. I mean, about 60% of the cap was over on defense. And I knew that's how we were going to win, so we better make sure our defense is good. And what a starting point for him, you got to have a starting point. If you're all over the board, you know, you're not really helping it. And it's much easier if you can get some really solid defensive players and build that defense where it's hard to score. Well, if your offense struggles a little bit, you can still win games. But, you know, like they say, you know, defense wins championships, and it hasn't changed. And it's going to make it hard on people to go against those the talent they've got in the secondary.
Coach Fassel, I can't help but look at this Jets team now and all these great moves they're making, and look at it through Rex Ryan's eyes and go, man, if you had got me these guys, I'd still be in New York, and we would have won a heck of a lot more games.
Well, the only thing is, Rex had to have a lot of say on what he was doing. I mean, I don't know of any coach that has no say. So usually, you know, I can't see that all of a sudden Todd Bowles goes in there and now he's telling him, I want to build a secondary, but Rex didn't have the same authority to do that. So I think Rex was a part of that. I don't think they shoved players down his throat and changed his roster without his knowledge or approval. So I think that Todd Bowles taking a different thing, and he's starting with a secondary right there, and that's where he's going to build it.
Now, Coach, the rap, the word that got out, and Rex Ryan, quite frankly, tried to allow the public to believe this, and guys like Chris Johnson have tried to fuel this fire once they leave the organization. The feeling was that John Idzik said, no, Rex, you have to play this guy. This is the direction you know, John Idzik has become the evil villain because he didn't spend the money, and he told Rex Ryan which guys to play. But you're not buying that to that extent.
I'm really not buying to that extent, no, and I haven't heard all the quotes, so I hate to say I disagree with it when I haven't even read the quote. But I think no matter what, you know, that's not the way to exit. You know, every coach that gets let go has got some issues somewhere. But I would believe, I would be shocked that Rex didn't have a pretty loud voice in what they're doing.
Former Giants head coach Jim Fassel with Armen Levack on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports.
Coach, you've got a great offensive mind. When you look at what Rex Ryan is doing in Buffalo, adding the fullback, you know, to put in front of Shady McCoy, do you think that kind of ground and pound can still be effective in this modern day NFL?
Yeah, I do, and I think, you know, when I would build a team, I mean, one of the things is, like I said, was if you got Tom Brady or you got a Peyton Manning or a Drew Brees or an Aaron Rodgers, have at it. I mean, when I was at the Denver Broncos, offensive coordinator, I had Elway. I mean, we threw the ball around the park because he was our guy. But if you don't have that guy, you better have a run game. The run game, you know, it keeps you in manageable third downs, and it also, you know, they've got to load up and stop your run game if you got a powerful run game, and that only makes it easier for the quarterback to throw the ball down the field. Rather they're playing all two-man coverages and they're saying we'll stop the run with the front four and maybe a linebacker, and the rest of us are going to be covering all these guys. So I'm a firm believer in no matter how this is perceived as a passing league, you still have to have a physical run game. In the fourth quarter, if you're ahead and you have no run game, you're going to go three and out, trying to keep the score in your favor. So you get it's paramount to me that you have a run game, and that's where he's building it on.
Coach Fassel with Armen Levack on 104.5 The Team. And Coach, the Giants, your former team, have been very busy in free agency, one of the busiest teams in the NFL. But it's interesting the way that they're doing it because they pay $18 million to wide receiver special teams guy Dwayne Harris. You got $13 million to Shane Vereen at running back. You get a linebacker and JT Thomas and Jonathan Casillas out of Jacksonville and New England. These guys are getting $20 million. Marshall Newhouse, offensive offensive lineman. He's going to get $4 million. All of these guys, Coach, they're projected not to start. The Giants are spending a lot of money on depth. From a fan perspective, it's, man, that's great we're spending money, but there's not a lot of big names here. What do you buy out of the concept of what the Giants and Coach Coughlin are doing right now?
Well, I think, I always say this. It's really hard for me to look in the books and what they're going. And, if you can build depth, at what price? That's the question. Because everybody right now, you see teams that aren't playing well, they don't have any depth. And then they also may say this is a guy that can come in and develop, and maybe a lineman that can maybe play. He can be a center, guard, or tackle. He gives them flexibility. So it all goes there, and then they've got to have an overall picture of what they think they can get in the draft. Okay, is this heavy? It's heavy with receivers if they need something like that, or heavy with linebackers or something like that, and they figure that they can make up for that in the draft. But again, it still comes down to, and I've said this many times, since free agency came in, the upper level management in an organization, the managing of the cap, managing of all those things is more important than ever as far as getting a winning team on the field. So Jerry Reese is a smart guy, and John Maris, he's a smart guy. So I don't think that anything's going on there that they don't all kind of agree on.
Coach Fassel, this AFC East as a whole, I'm dwelling on the fact that the Jets got better, the Bills got better, the Dolphins add Ndamukong Suh. People are just ravaging the Patriots right now and stealing their talent like happens after Super Bowls. I still look at them, and when I hear you talk about making a team one-dimensional, I still feel like they're going to do that. Are the Patriots still the best team in the AFC East? Just looking at it right now, pure speculation.
Yeah, I would say so. They're solid. They don't have anything, a lot of weaknesses, and they play smart, and they got a great quarterback. So they've got a lot of things for them, what other teams are trying to get to. And the hardest one's a quarterback. You know what I mean? It's going to be a big change when Brady retires one of these days, because he's obviously a mainstay there. But I would say in the AFC, I think New England would be odds-on favorite to go back and do it again.
Coach, one of your former teams, the Oakland Raiders, I'm a long-suffering fan, so I'm just going to be completely selfish and ask a question for me. How many years till they're viable? Have they made enough moves this year to be a real team?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've made some bad choices along the way, but I think they got a quarterback now that can do it. And they've gone through a lot of quarterbacks trying to get there, but now they got a quarterback, and he's good. I think he's going to be one of the up-and-coming stars in the league, and I think just the culture. I think that the players. Whenever you pick up a real good player, bring him in, it lifts the other team. And I think the coaching changes the way it had to happen there. I think the players are going to see a new attitude, a new approach, and that gives them a lift. Now, they are playing in one of the toughest divisions, but I think they're on the right track right now as building.
Coach Jim Fassel with Armen Levack, 104.5, the team coach. I know you're a busy man. What are you up to in Vegas these days? How's life treating you in the off season?
Oh, very good. Having a lot, got a lot of family time, playing golf a lot, and just working on different projects and doing radio shows like with you guys.
Coach, if I can ever treat you to 18, let me